Paper Cut Club on Oman FM.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Paper Cut Club, where we discover a little bit more about the world and ourselves through the magic of the written word. Today we're going to be talking about one of our recent book club picks called Trick Mirror, Reflections on Self-Delusion by Gia Tolentino. I'm joined in the studio by Anup Sudevan, a member of our book club since the beginning. He's going to be sharing the male perspective on a rather radical feminist text, I think. So welcome, Anup.
Thank you so much for having me here in the studio.
It's a pleasure to see you finally face to face. So we started our book club on Zoom and we've maintained it on Zoom. So this is the first time we're actually meeting face to face.
Yes, indeed.
It's a pretty unique circumstance to meet in real life.
In real life, and that too in the studio.
Let's start, first of all, by learning a little bit more about you, because I actually, before today, we had a little conversation earlier. I realized we don't know anything about you. Other than that, you read a lot and you have really great opinions on the books that we read. But tell us a little bit more about yourself. What do you do here?
Okay, I've been here in this country for almost 9.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I work in an automobile industry, and I work for a car brand called as Renault.
Mm-hmm.
So my journey to this book club was from past 3-4 years. I've been searching for a book club because I feel that's the exact place wherein you can discuss, get your thoughts, and I always want to write, but I haven't had that initiative to write before, so I thought the book club is the perfect place. So Goodreads, I was searching for some clubs, and that's when I saw your profile over there. But then I saw 2008, 2009 it was active, and after that it's been dead. So then I tried to reach out here and there. I even tried to start a club, but it failed. And then on Instagram I saw Paper Cut, and then I saw you on the podcast, Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
And that's when I searched, I started listening, and then I came to know that you are starting one with all the thing. And the first book I remember was Pachinko.
Yes.
The Korean one. So that was the first time I was also reading of that author. And then we had that exuberating meeting on Zoom where the first one where there were a lot of members, and I think I hardly said hi, and then I don't remember talking much on it because you had a lot of things to, but that was fun actually. So that's when I came to know that this is what actually happens in a book club, because I've always been fascinated by books, movies wherein they have this club, they talk about books, they go deep into it.
So this was your first book club that you joined?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Okay,
Yes.
I'm glad. So I guess for me, it's my second book club that I've been really immersed in.
Oh, that's
and it's
nice.
Yeah, because and I tried to start others before. This is probably my third time starting a book club.
Oh, okay.
But this is the only time it's been successful, and I think that part of that has to do with the fact that we're on Zoom, to be honest with you, because the most difficult thing is trying to get people to arrange a physical gathering.
Yes.
It's really, really, I've tried it in the previous book clubs and it always failed.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
so anyways, I'm glad. So did you feel like you got what you were looking for when you joined?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best thing is, you go into different kinds of books that you never expected, and then different authors, different point of view.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to ask how you came up with the name of the club, Paper Cut.
Ah, okay. Good question. I was thinking about, I thought about the name for a very, very long time, and I wanted something that was about books or something to do with paper, like the physical act of holding a book.
Okay.
But also, I didn't want something that was too cutesy or too, I don't know. I just wanted something slightly edgy.
Okay.
So I felt like the only edgy thing that a book lover can do is get a bunch of paper cuts.
Obviously.
From reading so hard, So that's what I decided to call it. That's the only war wound that nerds can really
It's a nice name actually,
That and carpal tunnel syndrome, but you can't really talk about that. I noticed something, that your reading interests are very diverse. I've observed when you've shared your opinions before that you've made reference to different books. Where did you develop this love of reading?
It started from my childhood. I don't know, whenever, I see movies that has got books in it, authors in it, I had this fascination towards them. I was in love with English literature. And then slowly I started reading. And then when I started college, I left. Absolutely. And it was just textbooks and all. Then my wife presented me a book on my birthday, which was Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson, and that's when I actually came back into reading, because
Amazing.
I love Steve Jobs, and that book kind of inspired me. Also into buying a lot of Mac stuff and Apple stuff, spending a lot of money. So I thought, let me spend it on books. So then I started searching for options, because now time gets a little tough. So now you have a lot of options like audiobooks, Kindle, and some books are tough to get. So I shifted, and then I fell in love with reading once again, and I've never stopped, I think, from past 5 years, I believe.
The book that we are going to be discussing was our February book of the month. It's a nonfiction, it's a collection of essays called Trick Mirror, Reflections on Self-Delusion by Gia Tolentino. What happens to our behavior when we live mostly online? What does it mean to always be optimizing? And what is it about scams and the millennial generation? Offering nuanced and witty reflections on feminism, reality TV, the internet, drugs, identity, and more, Trick Mirror is a multifaceted, thought-provoking, and entertaining response to our zeitgeist. A must-read for anyone interested in the way we live and think today. Yeah, this was a fantastic collection of essays. Some essays more relatable than others, for sure, but overall, a very interesting... I mean, the blurb really says it all. It was a really fascinating insight into the zeitgeist, the spirit of our times. When we had the book club about a couple of weeks ago, it was fascinating, first of all, to see different people's opinions on what was most relevant, what was not relevant enough. But let's start with, the essays. The first one is about growing up in the age of the internet, and this is something very specific to the roughly our generation.
Exactly.
Of people who grew up across different stages of the web, like Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and now we're going into Web 3.0. People's relationships with reality TV, this trend of always needing to optimize and be the perfect, in this case, ideal woman, and representation of girls and women in literature. There's a lot, and one of my favorites, The Story of a Generation and 7 Scams, which is all about scams in millennial culture. So what was your favorite essay out of all of these, if you can pick one?
If I could pick one, it would be I for Internet, the first one. But I also have one more. That's Old School Virginia.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of like that also.
That one is called We Come From Old Virginia.
We Come From Old Virginia.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
So that's one that I also loved.
Okay.
Equally to this one.
Interesting. We didn't get a chance to discuss that one.
No, we did not.
Let's start with the I in Internet, because for me, that was, I thought it was a fantastic one to start the whole collection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While I was reading this, first it gave the first phase of your the internet boom, which talked about, internet was only fun at that point of time. It was just to connect people, just to come up. So it had a very slow growth. But then people did not have this intentions of making it, this manipulative or selfhood, which has been spoken extensively on it. But then slowly, gradually, things changed when the 2.0 came. So we have seen that phase of internet, especially like you said. And then things got out of control, and then it became a total different thing, wherein if you're not also a part of this internet, you would get influenced somehow or the other. And then people started finding it the absolute platform to be someone else that they can't be as well. So all those thoughts now, when I was reading this, the starting few pages were like, yes, I know about this. I've heard, I've listened. And then she starts to diagnose. That's the brilliant part Gia has done it. The writer. Then she goes and then she gets you into these deep thoughts. So you stop and then you think, and then she comes in, with justice with the title that's Trick Mirror or Self-Delusion. So she gives you. So her writing is in such a way that she talks about an issue, she diagnoses, and then she tells you what is a self-delusion, and then she ends it over there.
Yes.
So she doesn't do this preaching
No.
about this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. So that's one
Exactly.
thing I found, and especially with this, the first essay, which is very controversial. You can talk about the plus and the minuses about it, but she's not done it. So I felt, she has written this essay, and this is a very thought-provoking essay
Yes.
of the book.
One of the things you touched on, which is that that she doesn't really attack things from a moral standpoint. She just really looks at things almost scientifically,
Yes.
in a way. But it's more shocking or interesting to see it that way, because this is an extremely personal subject. You
Yes.
know, growing up and selfhood and identity with the internet. These are all very personal things. So it's very easy, and this is something I'm guilty of all the time, which is, first of all, to moralize about things.
Okay.
And say, like, this shouldn't be like this, and I get, enraged, but and I just swept up, with the whole emotion of it, and what I really enjoyed about this is how profound each essay was in like her thought process. One thing I did notice, now reflecting on that whole journey from that era of the web to now, is that as soon as something like High Five opened, there was an interesting thing that happened, which was that, well, High Five it's a very basic social media platform, which is like you can put up your profile picture, maybe your interests or something.
Yes.
And that's basically it.
That's
and people and crucially, people could leave testimonials for each other.
Testimonials, yes, I remember.
So I remember I was like 14 or maybe 13, something like that. And all the people that I knew on High Five were people that were my friends in school, basically my classmates.
Okay.
And all we did was leave testimonials, which sounded similar to what you would write to your best friend in a yearbook.
Yes.
Like, you're such an amazing person, you're the coolest, don't ever change, So all of my profile, it just makes it gave us that serotonin boost or dopamine boost,
Yes.
that we're so used to now. But back then it was like, I feel like it was 100 times more,
Yes, it meant a lot. And you would go to your friends and ask them, please put a testimonial for me.
Yes. Like trading testimonials. I'll do one for you, you do
Yes.
one for me. Yeah, I need to go find that old, I'm sure it's still up there somewhere.
Is it? Okay.
Well, have a look, you never know. Anyways, we moved on from that, but I think those were the early signs of people wanting to project a certain view of themselves.
Yes.
Because of course you're going to put up your interests, are your actual interests, but also this added element of the testimonials, like it kind of prepared us for this whole seeking approval from external forces or from the online crowd.
Yes,
I feel like
yes.
it now, looking back, the progression from High Five to where we are now with social media, with Instagram and everything else, it kind of feels like you can chart that path. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Gia Tolentino describes millennial generation as perpetuating or enhancing scam culture or just getting embroiled in it, as a result of being influenced by certain other existing scams. And she lists out a lot of older scammers like Donald Trump and,
Yes.
and other big scams known to
The Fire Festival.
the Fire Festival scam, or the scam of like the beauty or the women's, the girl boss industry, basically.
Yes.
Which is so fascinating to me. I definitely want to talk more about that. But it seems to me that a lot of the scams that she talks about that millennials are involved in have a lot to do with appearing a certain way on the internet.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if there's a connection between that essay and this one.
It has.
Yeah.
See, in the in one of her essays, she mentions about an example of a job interview, wherein she says when we go for a job interview, we have this projection because we want to be what they expect us, and then we start to perform. So we perform, and then when we go to a different location, like say for a cab or at home, then we start to perform again. Social media is one platform where you have to keep performing because people are going to get more and more. You're going to have more views, and there's nothing called as backstage and on stage.
Yes.
So this is what. So now, because of this, now as you have done it, wonderfully, the scams. So when you perform and when you're being someone else to satisfy, you get into the scam thinking that you fake it till you make it. But then, things get off hand and then you still believe, no, there has to be a reality to it, or, I believe in it and this would happen. And then when you see things, to shatter, people just forget or.
The level of self-delusion of some of these scammers is insane. And the two ones that I want to highlight are the Fire Festival scam, which everybody knows about now.
Yes.
Because of the big documentary that was done about it. But just to summarize really quickly, the Fire Festival was an event that was supposed to take place on an island in the Bahamas. It was thought up by a man named Billy McFarland, and he somehow roped Ja Rule into it. Ja Rule is the hip-hop artist who was also creating a business platform that related to how to create a better way to select artists for other...
For marketing.
Yes, exactly. He was going to take over the island, have 10,000 people come, and all these amazing headline acts, and people paid a lot of money.
Yes.
A lot of money, and they all flew to the Bahamas, and nothing was done.
Yes.
The thing that amazes me the most about the scam, he, at the end of 2016, decided to host the event and planned it for April 2017. So he gave himself 4 months. And she says here, it would be difficult to plan a medium-sized wedding on 4 months' notice. This was an objectively impossible timeline for an all-inclusive music festival for 10,000 people on a remote beach. McFarland would have likely understood this without a second thought if he'd ever, for example, had a job performing actual services of any kind, if he'd ever waited tables or earned minimum wage working a concession stand, or if he'd ever been to a music festival, which astoundingly he had not. Instead, the 25-year-old had been busy building a career on the principle that a person could front his way to any desired reality, and he'd also tapped into a deep vein of customers who were eager to believe the same. So if that's not self-delusion, I don't know what is. How could he have... He truly believed up until the last moment that he was going to pull it off.
Yes. Even when the staffs were also telling him, and even when it came in the news as well, he still believed that this would take off, and people still thought it would happen. So I don't know to what extent, you can call him a con man or I don't know, but he has made something out of nothing. That's in one way. It is a brilliance, but it's all scam.
Exactly.
Millennials, and I think we fall for scam, and I think it's so strong that sometimes you just accept it and you say, okay, like it happened. Those scams are also being related to Facebook and other social media thing, but then it's been so much engraved into our daily life, we just forget about it. So that's one.
And the other one that's remarkably similar, and I think they've actually overlapped socially, is the scammer Anna Delvey. Basically, what Anna Delvey did is she pretended to be a German-Russian heiress, socialite woman. She came to New York, not knowing anyone, and created all of these amazing connections. She networked with the elite of New York, the New York art world, the New York finance world, really the top of the top. She got into the most exclusive parties. She hosted parties and had really big names attend, and somehow managed to scam herself free private jet rides, lots and lots of clothing for herself, and a lot of money. She actually managed to get to the point where she was on the verge of getting accepted for a $40 million loan. Ooh. That's how good she was at believing her own lies and getting other people to believe them as well. She was also obsessed, interestingly enough, with social media. And she had, if you looked at her Instagram, it was full of these, every picture was in a different city. One day she's in Berlin, one day she's in Prague. When you watch it, you get the image that, she's definitely a jet setter. She must be very wealthy. She goes to all, and she did have impeccable taste in clothes and art and things like that. So it all helped to feed this image. I think that with that level of self-delusion created by the internet, it seems only like a hop, skip, and a jump away to become a scammer,
Yes.
I mean, it seems to me when you think about it, in a way, self-delusion, it's such an excellent lens from which to view all of these stories, not just the scammer stories, but all of the stories that come up, because actually self-delusion is almost like a crisis at this stage in our generation or in our world right now. And I think it's interesting that she started with the essay on the internet, because I feel like it all started from there, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Everything started from the internet.
Yes.
Because that was the base of it. There's this one beautiful quote from the essay, The I in the Internet, which says, in other words, it is essential that social media is mostly unsatisfying. That is what keeps us scrolling, pressing a lever over and over in the hopes of getting some fleeting sensation, some momentary rush of recognition, flattery or rage. I find it quite true even to myself, even though I find myself bored and I don't want to look into Instagram, but then still I just keep going on because it doesn't satisfy. So when I read this, I think I lost myself almost for 10-15 minutes thinking about, is this true? Now this was a self-delusion for me.
It's true, because if you think about it, recognition, yes, I love going on the internet. I love going on social media to find people who are relatable to me. Okay. I love, honestly, like if I'm being completely sincere, I like it when people compliment things that I like about myself, or even things I don't like about myself. Some validation would be nice, And I love to rant. I mean, today is a perfect example. My social media page is all rants, And so, yes, 100%. And also, I had related to it so much that I highlighted it and put an exclamation point next to it.
I could see that.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Reem. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm here with Anup.
Hi, Reem. This is Anup here. How are you?
Hi, Anup. Nice hearing your voice.
Yes. So obviously we're talking about Trick Mirror. So I thought this was already a book club discussion, I thought it would be good to get you back in the studio in a way to find out what you thought about this book, or more particularly, what was your favorite essay?
So the book was interesting in a way that at the beginning, first chapters were very hard for me to digest, especially that I spoke about reality TV.
Oh,
it's not
yes.
like a promotion, but towards the end, the book gets really better.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite was Ecstasy, I think.
Oh, really?
Chapter correctly. Yeah, because it felt real, and it spoke about real people, real feelings. And you can get a glimpse more of the author, because she speaks about herself and her experience and her feelings more in that chapter.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of her most personal essays. It talks about a lot of her extremely personal experiences with religion and psychedelics.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to say something. That was one chapter that I did not like in the book. So I would really would love to know why, because I felt the concept was okay, but then, and I think she kind of, dragged a lot. But then now when I hear, that was the most personalized thing about it, I would actually like to know from you what, made it
so compelling for you.
Yes.
Well, I think because she discussed her thoughts about experiences. She spoke about diverse things about the society, things that actually are very relevant. Maybe I thought a lot of the things were relevant to date, although this essay was written way back. But I feel like the chapter spoke to me, along, of course, with the chapter that was about marriage. This was the last chapter, final chapter.
The final chapter, Ivy Dread.
I think it was mainly about how the society actually puts everything about marriage and how it is portrayed. And, that was an interesting chapter as well, because also, although despite the difference in culture and religion and the area and everything, but still the same concept. It's overrated.
It's actually fascinating, because when we read that essay on Ivy Dread, basically she, like you said, she talks about how the institution of not marriage specifically, but weddings in particular, have become such an event, like a production. And she goes into detail about the backstory of a lot of these traditions. And it turns out that a lot of the traditions are not that old after all. So the white dress, the white dresses are like from within the last century, like 100 years roughly, or maybe over now, 150 years. Then the fact that men and women wear wedding rings is also a very modern concept. The men wearing wedding rings as well dates to World War II. And it occurred to me that all of these things are very Western, like they started off in the Western world.
Yes.
You know? So the fact that we all do it here, like a lot of families and people getting married in the Arab world, they'll wear a white dress, you know, they'll have a wedding where just a specific event, just so that they can wear a white dress. It has no nothing in religion. There's nothing in our religion or our tradition that requires that reception.
And the amount of money you have to pay just because the dress is white.
Exactly.
I mean, the amount of depth, the amount of unhappiness. I haven't met anyone who said the process of the wedding was happy. And you'd never meet any bride who said, oh, yes, I remember exactly everything happened on my wedding day because it was amazing. Because a lot of things are stuck in one day and you have to do a lot of socialing. And I mean, like, it became more of events.
True.
Than it is about the whole, you know, happiness, bringing two families together, you know, bonding. It became just more artificial show, picture. Photo, video.
100%. I have to say, I was quite lucky because when I did my wedding, I did not, first of all, I did not do the white dress thing because I did not believe in it. And and I'm glad that I didn't because it turns out it was nonsense to begin with. No offense to every other bride.
I agree.
Here I am alienating everyone. Okay.
No, it's okay. I didn't do it either.
Okay,
I
great.
didn't do a whole wedding at all.
This is why
I didn't even bother to do anything. I was like, you know what? I'm getting married. Mosque event and that's it.
Yeah, and like I'm glad that I didn't because I realized now that was I felt that it was just a show kind of thing, and it's nice to celebrate and everything like that. But why is something so personal so copy paste also? Like
everyone keeps saying, well, you didn't do that, you're going to regret it. You have to do it. You must do it. You have to copy and do everyone else.
The way she talks about it in the book is like, this is part of the self-delusion for like that's created for women.
Yes.
That you are the most, you are the bride, you are the princess, you're the royalty on
the
this
most
day.
Important person.
You're the most important person. Like the way it's even discussed in these wedding how-to books or magazines.
Yes.
Makes it like, puffs you up with so much importance for the wedding day.
Exactly.
And then after, you know, nothing, you know, it's all downhill from there.
And you know where I also should talk about, you know, the part where you actually, the man comes and propose and you go happy, wow. It's like you've been waiting all your time for that moment. And I feel she spoke about a lot of the pressure that we have, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she was very relevant to a lot of what we face. A lot of the difficulties. She just wrote it down. It was exposed. But Anup, now I'm wondering, since you didn't like the chapter I liked, which one was your favorite?
My favorite, actually I have two. One is I for internet, internet, and the other one was old school Virginia.
We came from old Virginia.
Old Virginia. I always say old school. Old Virginia.
We came from old Virginia,
because I could, like relate to some of it, because that talks about, this fraternity college and all that thing.
Sure.
How men are.
Yes.
So I could relate. Not that I was, a kind of person like that, but then, I could kind of, relate.
So just for the audience, the essay We Come From Old Virginia talks about fraternity culture and sorority culture, but mainly the toxic masculinity of fraternity culture in universities in America, where they have these Greek-style frat houses.
Frat houses, yes.
And they're basically like leftover sort of remnants of an old system where boys from a particular class specifically would get together and just
elite classes.
Just be elite together, basically. But also they would perpetuate these very violent and dangerous. Like there's a lot of deaths that occur in these houses because of a lot of different violent things that they get up to.
Yes.
And actually a lot of stories come up, even in the UK. I've heard stories about all kinds of members of parliament and former prime ministers getting up to really horrible things because of these old clubs, which are not frat houses, but they're quite similar in some respects.
And what was the second one?
The I and Internet.
Internet, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. The Internet and the Old Virginia, okay.
You didn't like it?
It was very sad for me, the part that chapter, because it spoke a lot about the misery and brutal. A lot of the woman, because of the social system, the domination. This chapter, if I remember it correctly, spoke a lot about the domination of the men over the women and how the women have to suffer because of that.
Okay.
So for me, it was a bit of a tough
Yeah,
to
I guess a
digest.
bit bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I was actually asking about the first chapter. That's I for
Oh,
the
wait.
internet. I was asking her.
yeah.
Yeah, I was asking
So
her
that
opinion.
chapter actually was the start of the beginning where I said, okay, I'm not going to let the book down because I was really ready to say, this is not for me. I'm done. You know? The reality TV show killed me. But then this was the first chapter. It was like, oh, I can relate. And for me, it brought a lot of memories back in Oman where, you know, the internet started and the internet community started.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Fatma, I think me and you, first time we met was through social media.
True. Yeah, we met on English Sabla.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, it was a good community then. Things were different. Things were basic. And she spoke a lot about these things and those feelings. So it brought back a lot of memories.
It was a nostalgic one, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes, it was.
It was.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Reem, so much for your contribution. This is awesome as usual. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yes.
Anup, nice talking to you again.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great talking to you as well.
See you guys soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Maria.
Hi.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here with Anup in the studio, and we're talking about Trick Mirror. What was your favorite essay from the book?
That's a good question because I really liked a lot of them. The better question would be which one didn't I like? Because I really liked a lot of them. They made me think and reflect a lot.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose, I would say Always Be Optimizing was my favorite.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite as well. That one is about the phenomenon of the ideal woman.
Yeah.
And this rat race that we've somehow ended up in where we're always trying to just get better and be better physically, lifestyle-wise, and just showcase that on the internet, basically.
Exactly. Showcase.
It's true.
We're becoming art projects that we need to display online all the time. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a
Always
part
be
that
competent, always be on, productive, and
Yeah.
yeah. That was really like one of my real favorites, and I feel like it resonated with so many of us. Like it was funny, like because all of us were like relating so much to the article.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something. It's one of the books that I actually finished really, really early. Like unlike any other books that we did in the book club. So
Yeah.
it was so interesting. I was so happy. Like I finished it earlier than anyone else.
Yeah. You know, what I liked about this essay as well, like we talked about this earlier with Anup, which is that the way Gia writes these essays, she's not really moralistic about them. So she recognizes that there's this issue of women being felt like pressured to perform at exceedingly higher levels over time, but also, and recognizing that this is a rather misogynistic way of viewing the world, but also she acknowledges that we as women, first of all, we tend to get criticized for the things that we like, and also that it's possible to also want some of these things, like finding pleasure in achieving a certain physical thing, like getting to a certain weight or being really fit and strong and getting muscles.
Yeah.
Like it's possible to enjoy achieving those milestones.
Yes.
And also at the same time recognizing the critical aspect of it, which is the fact that it's part of this always be optimizing culture. Like you don't have to necessarily preach that stop doing all of this. You know, you can like these things and be critical of them at the same time.
Well, basically in the corporate world, like we have to be competent. We have to be twice as hard as women because we can't be slacking, right?
Yes.
And the article, yes, it talks about every aspect of life, really, but it really resonated with me because I felt it in the corporate world. I couldn't be less competent than my peers,
Yes.
So it does create a lot of pressure, mentally speaking.
Yeah.
Our mental health suffers when we are just seeking how to be the best version of ourselves. How can we please every aspect, everyone else in your life except yourself, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's this one phrase she used in another essay, but I think it's quite relevant for this one, is that the way she describes the environment that we've created for ourselves is as like an electric, unlivable hell, which I know sounds very dark, but sometimes it feels like that because it's just, as you say, always be optimizing, just,
Yes.
so it just feels like a rat race,
It
But yeah.
definitely feels like it. Like,
Yeah.
I really feel it. I'm living it. Like, it doesn't feel like it's something out of reach. When I read it, it's very relatable. And
Yeah.
it's just surprising. Like, it's not surprising, really. Like, a lot of us relate to it so much because it's the reality. And I wonder, I think we had this conversation also in the meeting, like, how much are we contributing to that as well? Because we're kind of partaking in this craziness. We're doing that.
Do you feel like after reading this essay, it's brought you any kind of relief and it made you feel like you can relax a little bit more?
Good question. Relax a little bit more. I'm not sure. My life has been exponentially like going crazier and busier the last 2 years. So it's not that. It's more of like feeling I'm sharing the same experience with like a lot of us when we were discussing. The shared experience makes it less heavy. Like you're going through it alone.
Definitely. Yeah. To know that it's not all just from, like sometimes I feel as well, like if I'm feeling too pressured by everything, that it's because of me being a failure and me not being able to handle things. But knowing that that we do live in a very fast-paced, consumerist society does help give some more perspective, I guess. Maybe we should use this as like a mantra, like every time like things get too heavy, we're just like, it's a trick mirror. This is a trick mirror, just relax.
Yeah, exactly. Should have it printed somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah. So you mentioned like that it's easier for you to choose which one you liked the least. Which one was your least favorite?
Oh, for sure. Which one was it? The reality show one.
Oh yeah, reality TV Me. Yes.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like it felt like I wanted to get over it as soon as I started reading it. It felt حش كلام يعني إنه she's telling us she was in a reality show. I didn't know what's the morale of the story يعني. But yeah, it felt like it was just like a plug there to tell us she's in a reality show.
Yeah, she was like, by the way, I was in a reality show and I didn't care that much about it.
Yeah, I just like investigating. I did a lot of reports about it.
No, I'm just kidding. Like I feel like if I met her in real life, I would be such a fangirl if I did actually meet her. She's so like, I feel like I hope we would be friends.
I hope she hears this episode. But yeah, I think I would also be friends with her from all the other articles are amazing.
Yeah.
It made me, I think I mentioned to you also on my Instagram that I wrote 4 pages response to every article that she wrote.
Oh, yes. I love
because
that.
Because it felt like I was angry. I was, I was just going through the motions as I was reading. And I felt like it's it's something I have to write. So
that is awesome.
I would definitely be friends. We can disagree about certain stuff. But,
Yes. It's so great when a piece of writing provokes that much thought and emotion in you,
Yeah.
That's really great. I love that. I'm so glad that this book did that for you. Well, thank you so much, Maria, for your time. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
It was really great speaking to you. That was Maria and Reem. So I feel really happy now. I have that same warm and fuzzy feeling after every book club. I have like a proper post-book club high after every one. And this is the same feeling. So that's awesome. Yeah, I encourage people to check out some of the essays at least.
Yes.
And check out the quotes on our Instagram at thepapercut.club. I selected some of my favorite quotes, which was incredibly difficult to do. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. I would love to keep this conversation going, really. But most of all, I want to thank Anup for coming here and bearing with us with all the plan changes and logistics issues. I really appreciate it. This was such a pleasure. And I want to congratulate Anup. We were talking when we took a quick break. He recently won a Toastmasters competition and is going to go to the regional level, which is the final stage.
Yeah, D-Tag.
Yes. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here in the studio.
Yes.
The pleasure is all mine. And
Yes.
this actually felt like a book club that we do in Zoom. And
Yes.
this is in real, in person.
Yes.
So this is more fascinating, I
Yes.
was saying. And yes, to Mr. Abdullah as well. Yeah. It was great.
Yes.
Seriously, I thoroughly enjoyed it
Yes.
from the bottom of my
Me
heart.
too. Me too. This is awesome. The Papercut Club is a member of the Oman FM podcast collective. You can find all of Oman FM's latest shows and updates on Instagram at omanfm.om. This episode was hosted by me, Fatma Mekki, and edited and mixed by Abdullah Al-Marwali. To find out more about the Papercut Club, find us on Instagram and TikTok at thepapercut.club or visit our website at www.thepapercut.club. Thank you for listening and happy reading.
Paper Cut Club on Oman FM.